Alrighty, so you should be pretty far along on your 1-point perspective drawing. If you have empty spaces, like I have empty negative space on the sides of my building right here, add something. It doesn't even have to be a whole lot. So here I'm just going to put a rectangle that goes off the edge of the page like this. And now I'm going to add some orthogonal lines to be the walls for either side. And just like that, I suddenly have something that now fills up the empty space. The more stuff you can put into your drawing that we can look at that shows that you understand 1-point perspective, the more points we can give you for this project. And so if you've got empty spaces, add something. I'm not going to tell you exactly how many things you need to add because everybody's drawing is a little bit different. If you have a lot of buildings and stuff in your drawing, then you might have a lot of opportunity to add things like windows and doors and stuff. But if yours is more of a park or something like that, then you might not have as much stuff like windows and doors. And so you'll have to get creative with adding extra orthogonal stuff in there. So here's another street. And I can even make another street along the bottom. So I'm starting to fill it up. Once you've gotten to the point where you are full and your paper doesn't have big giant empty spaces in it, then we're going to start adding color. I would suggest colored pencils. Colored pencils are going to work really well. I have some students that are choosing to outline theirs with pen, which is definitely totally up to you, but an option. They do look really nice if you want to go over all your lines with pen first. And then when you fill it in with your colored pencil or whatever, if you run over it with an eraser real quick, you can get rid of your extra pencil lines that are behind the pen, which is nice. Here are some examples that are already colored. These are from last year's project. So last year we did the inside of a room. Here's one that's been colored with colored pencil. This student did a nice job of thinking about directional lighting and how a shadow would sit on a wall next to an object. So be thinking about if you're looking at an object where you can see 3 sides of it, if the light is coming from a window or something that's above, then that top is probably going to be the brightest part and the side is probably going to be darker. So be thinking about that, directional lighting. Here's another one. Also, this one is done with colored pencil. You'll notice that there are only, and the student, it didn't actually quite finish, so she's got a couple more pieces to go. But both of these students could have chosen to leave their walls white, but they didn't. If you have a bunch of white space, it's going to look unfinished, and then your grade is going to reflect that. So be considering and thinking what materials you're going to use. If you have crayons or markers or something and you'd rather use those, do it. If you have a pen and you would like to outline with pen, you certainly can. Make sure it looks real nice before you start adding color. Use your straight edge when you're making your lines. Let us know if you have any questions. Another option, if you're not interested in adding color to yours, you could use your pencil to add value. If you're going to do that though, then your paper needs to be about 90% full of pencil. So if you're just using pencil to add value, that doesn't mean that you color in a couple of things and leave most of the paper white. If you're going to add value to yours, then it needs to be only about 10% just plain white paper. That means that objects that are white, sure, those could probably be left white, but everything else shouldn't. So these lines that are on the ground, those are technically made with white paint. I might leave those white, but these windows right here, I'm gonna go in and put a little bit of texture over them so that they're not just plain white. I'm putting streaks that are diagonal. That kind of makes it look like there's a reflection on there a little bit maybe. And then over here I'm adding grass, and so I'm filling it in with little short lines. And as I'm doing that, I'm adding texture so that you don't end up with a bunch of gray that just all mixes together. So I'm holding really far back on my pencil right now because I'm trying to make a light gray for the grass. make sure that if you're adding value using just your pencil, that you don't just put a little bit of value and then leave it mostly white, because that's going to negatively affect your grade. So think about what you have at home and consider, would you rather be adding texture and value using a pencil, or would you rather be adding colors and things with colored pencils or crayons and other materials that you might have at home? If you are going to be using pencil, my suggestion is, if you're like me and you're right-handed, to start adding your value on the left side so that you don't end up adding some beautiful values in here and then setting your hand on top of it to come over to this part. Also, don't be afraid to turn your paper so that you can reach areas a little bit easier. Totally up to you. Pencil or colored pencils. Outline with pen first if you would like to, but these need to look finished and complete. If you have spent the last 2 weeks on a really beautiful drawing and then you go in and you spend only, a day adding color to it, it's gonna look pretty obvious and it's gonna ruin the hard work that you put into actually drawing your perspective objects, whatever it is that you're drawing. So take your time with it, make it look nice. We're gonna spend many days adding color and value to these drawings.